Hey guys, so I recently had a request from a viewer to do a video on weight reduction, and I thought this was a good idea. This is something that I'm actually working towards, and so what we're going to do here is just go through the entire car, and I'm going to discuss what I think, in my personal opinion, can be removed or should be removed or replaced, and things that shouldn't be removed. So starting at the front, the headlights, the old style flip up with the glass bulbs. I haven't done a headlight conversion, but that's a fairly heavy system. The motor itself, the servo motors, and the bulb itself, because it's glass, is quite heavy. So if you want to do a conversion to a fixed headlight or something a little bit lighter, that might be a good idea. Moving to the radiator. The one thing that I did remove here that you can as well if you have it is your air conditioning. So if you have air conditioning in your car, you're going to have a separate heat exchanger in front of the radiator. It's going to be located right about here, and that is quite a heavy, large heat exchanger. If you're willing to remove your air conditioning, the system itself is quite large and heavy. I've made several videos on how to remove it and removing it, and that's because the engine's in the back and everything, all the heat exchange stuff, is up here in the front. So if you can get rid of all that stuff, there's a bunch of AC piping and there's a canister up here you can remove. That's probably your biggest weight saver in the front of the car. One other thing is you can go to an electric radiator fan. So I've made a custom mount here, just weld it up, and have a slim, lightweight design SPAL electric fan. Before I had the two large radiator fans, and those are quite heavy. So moving towards an electric fan from a reputable company like SPAL is a good idea and a good way to save a couple pounds. Moving to the frunk, obviously there's supposed to be a spare tire in here. But you can remove that. For me, my wheels on the car right now are not even the same size as my spare tire. So I went ahead and removed that spare tire, as well as the brace. The brace doesn't add any extra structural rigidity, so remove that. You can remove your jack if you want to, that saves a couple pounds. The biggest thing here is a battery relocation, so I made a video on how to do that. And as you can see, I've moved to a much smaller, lightweight Odyssey PC 680 battery. So instead of having that heavy battery in the back, you can have this small, lightweight battery in the front, and it's working great so far. Another cool thing is you can add these manual disconnect fuses, so I can quickly disconnect the battery from the rest of the car. There's a bunch of plastic in here, plastic shrouding. You don't need that. Saves a couple grams if you want to remove it. Also, you can have some access to your vitals here at the front of the car. So that's pretty much everything in the front, besides removing the hood. So removing this hood, you can go to a carbon fiber unit. That would save quite a few pounds, but it's a very expensive option. You're looking at $500, $600 just for that carbon fiber hood. If you ever do get around to removing your front fenders, these things come off. They're fairly lightweight. I don't see how getting carbon fiber ones made would save you that much weight. It'd be a big pain in the ass. The bigger thing would be to get the carbon fiber hood. When you go to your wheels, obviously the stock wheels are fairly ugly and heavy. You can go to the lighter weight alloys. So I've gone ahead and gone with some 15-inch alloys, much lighter weight. We can move on now to the interior of the car. There's not much really going on the side of the car here. Some of the supercharged models have side sills. These are things that I will be installing. They're made of fiberglass. You don't really need them. They're more for visual appeal. If you don't want to have those on, that's a couple pounds you can remove. Going to the interior, I have gone with the removable newer steering wheel. I'm not sure if that saved any weight. The original steering wheel is actually quite heavy, So going to an aftermarket steering wheel might save you a few grams. You can remove the door inserts, the door cards. These aren't very heavy actually, because they're made of cardboard with this sort of pleather and cloth wrap. So I've actually removed these, and I was planning on replacing these with just a sheet of plexiglass, but it's actually about the same weight. I weighed the two options and they're about the same. So just stick with the door cards. One thing you can remove though is the bottom sort of holder unit here. It's a sort of a plastic molded unit on the bottom here, which you can put papers in or whatever. This is actually quite heavy. When you remove those things actually weigh maybe a pound or two. I don't use them, and I wanted to save that weight, so I removed those on both sides. On the interior, obviously you can go to different seats. You can go to some sport bucket seats. The stock seats are actually quite light, and they're quite comfortable as well, so I haven't gone ahead and done that modification yet. You can remove your floor mats. These are quite heavy, or you can go to lighter weight ones. In the interior, there's not too much else besides on the other side, which we'll go right now. When you get into behind the passenger glove compartment, ignore all the wiring here. I've rewired my car completely so that this is not stock, but the air comes in here. There's a fan motor in here, and it goes and gets piped to the rest of the cabin. If you're removing your air conditioning, you can remove the condenser, which is in that path of the air, and it's actually quite heavy as well. I have a video on how to remove that. So if you're going to be removing your air conditioning anyway, go ahead and remove that condenser, which is located behind here. Everything else, I mean, obviously you can remove the carpets, all the floor mats, the passenger seat if you want. I tried to keep it a balance between OEM and lightweight. Replacing the center console with something lighter, you won't save that much weight. This thing doesn't weigh too much. The stock stereo is a double DIN unit. It's quite heavy and big. You can replace that with a single DIN unit, aftermarket, get something a little bit newer. Definitely save some weight there. If we go to the back of the car, one thing to note is in here on the side intake, there's a fan on the other side, which is the engine bay fan. And that's also something you can replace with an aftermarket lightweight unit. So you can see I have a aftermarket SPAL lightweight electric fan there. You do have to make a custom mount for it. I just made mine out of plastic. Ignore the fact that my engine's out, I just removed it. Again, you can see the battery is not here, it's in the front. So we have all that space freed up as well. Other things I've been thinking about, this engine lid is quite heavy. We could replace that with a carbon fiber unit. Same with this trunk lid. This is actually quite heavy as well. We could replace that with a carbon fiber unit, and I think there's actually ones you can buy online. Again, those are more expensive options though. In terms of the engine bay, obviously, if you have an automatic transmission, going to a manual transmission will save you weight. That's what I did. The automatic transmission was so heavy, such a big lumbering beast compared to the smaller, you can see over here, the smaller manual transmissions. The automatic transmission was probably twice as big as this. Going into the trunk here, you can remove pretty much everything, which I've done. You don't need the carpet, you don't need the backboard here, you don't need any of the foam. All that stuff is just extra garbage. You do not need that. Especially if you're doing an engine swap like I did, you want to have access to your ECU and your wiring. So you can get rid of all the stuff and save yourself some weight. Another thing, which I just remembered, is you can remove your intake tract. So I made a video on how to do this, but the stock OEM intake goes through a hole here, which I blocked off. It goes all the way around the back of the car, all the way back to the side here. There's so much piping, it's ridiculous how much stock piping there is for the intake. Get rid of all of that, and I made a video on how to do that and how much comes out, but that's going to be one of your biggest weight savings and just complexity savings. I mean, you don't need all that piping. Lights, you got to keep the rear bumper. I've taken this off. It's heavy. It's probably filled with, you know, solid foam. This thing is heavy. So if you are so inclined, you could remove this bumper, get all that foam out, and just have this plastic shell, and you would save at least 10-20 pounds. Other things, upgrading your exhaust. This is the stock exhaust. It's by no means light. You could go with a lighter weight titanium exhaust, save some weight there. Other things, you could try and clean up your engine bay. I'm not sure if the 20 valve is lighter than the 16 valve, but that's the route I went. Lastly, going underneath the car, you're going to find a lot of plastic paneling, and actually I have one over here that I've removed. And so you're going to find a lot of this plastic paneling underneath the car, and this is actually protective paneling that protects the vitals from any road debris or rocks. You don't want to remove these. Keep these on the car. They weigh almost nothing, and they're going to protect all your fuel lines or coolant lines from getting punctured. So keep those on the car underneath. I mean, all in all, you could go crazy or you could go moderate like I have and save maybe 50 pounds, 50 to 80 pounds. If you go crazy, you could probably save 100, 150 pounds going carbon fiber and removing everything you want. But this car is already so light anyway that the change is going to be fairly minor. But I did get this request, and I thought it would be a good idea just to go walk around the car and see what you can remove.